Breaking today, a PR war of words between King Charles and Prince Harry about which royal has rejected whom. The monarch finally deciding to get tough on his wayward son, but lots of those within the royal institution, including courtiers close to Prince William, asking, "What took you so long, Your Majesty?" We will have all the latest on this developing royal story from Lady Colin Campbell imminently. But first, new reporting from Tom Sykes of the Royalist blog, who says that King Charles is now freezing out Harry, drawing a new line after the backlash to their last meeting. He reports King Charles III will not see his younger son when Harry returns to Britain later this month. A decision that marks a sharp and deliberate hardening of tone after what many inside the palace now privately concede was the costly misstep of meeting Harry last autumn. Could have told you that, sir. William told you that. It was a huge mistake. You'll remember Harry accused his father's staff of trying to sabotage his relationship with his dad after the son ran a story playing the significance of the meeting down. This time, Sykes reports the king won't be so easily bruised. He has arranged to be in Scotland while Harry is in the capital. Sources on Harry's side have told the royalists that the main reason the two men are not meeting is simple logistics, but the king's side are saying it is because the king does not want to be associated with Harry's court case. Earlier this week, the king's side briefed that there could be no meaningful reconciliation between Harry and the king unless he apologised for spare. For Prince William and others who believe the king's softness towards his, quote, darling boy has undermined the authority of the crown, the dramatic change of tone towards Harry will come as a profound relief. Immediately after the meeting, Harry repaid his father's indulgence by doubling down on his memoir spare. How dare he? Telling a journalist in Ukraine, from The Guardian, by the way, The Guardian, that, let me just remind you, wants the royal family overthrown and the United Kingdom altogether. He told this Guardian journalist that he didn't regret the scathing attack he launched on his family in the book. Sykes goes on. From the king's perspective, the timing could scarcely be worse. Charles has been acutely anxious about being dragged symbolically or otherwise into his son's increasingly aggressive litigation strategy. A source, unmistakably the palace press office, has now told the UK papers that the king has no wish to be linked to any court proceedings, adding that on this occasion he would prefer to give his younger son a, quote, wide berth. The phrasing is doing a considerable amount of work. It suggests constitutional propriety and judicial neutrality, but it also makes a more human calculation that the optics of another meeting with Harry, amid yet another round of legal and rhetorical warfare, would be politically disastrous. The king badly misread the public mood when he agreed to see Harry last September. That 50-minute meeting, briefed down afterwards as little more than tea and cake, emphatically not the Treaty of Versailles, was nonetheless interpreted by much of the public as what it clearly was: a significant olive branch, a step towards reconciliation with a son who has spent years attacking the institution his father embodies. The backlash was swift and unforgiving. To many, Charles looked weak, indulgent, and out of touch with the anger Harry has provoked by accusing the monarchy of cruelty and racism and emotional neglect, and by monetising those grievances on an industrial scale. So then we come to William. And William has made no secret of the view that his brother's behaviour is beyond the pale. To him, Harry crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed, and the idea of easy forgiveness is an anathema. That ruthless stance, but by the way, maybe ruthless, in my view, totally correct stance, far from damaging William, has proved extraordinarily popular. It evokes the late Queen's unyielding commitment to duty over personal feeling, a core competency of the institution. Charles has already learned belatedly the political value of siding with his heir on difficult family matters and his handling of Prince Andrew. When the king finally did what William had been urging him to do for years and stripped Andrew of his remaining privileges and moved decisively to marginalise him, the public response was overwhelmingly positive. He was too late, perhaps, but it was not too little for most of the public. Charles's indulgence towards Harry is particularly sensitive because of the separate and highly emotive issue of Harry's security. So, Lady Colin Campbell, a significant change coming from King Charles, a significant move coming from Buckingham Palace.
For months, the palace has maintained a careful distance. But tonight, reports suggest that King Charles has finally reached a breaking point with his youngest son, Prince Harry. And at the centre of it all is Harry's ongoing court case against the Daily Mail. What was once framed as a personal legal battle is now being seen by insiders as something far more damaging. The concern that this case repeatedly drags the monarchy into public controversy, undermines royal neutrality, and places the king in an impossible position, caught between fatherhood and duty. Sources close to palace circles suggest that Charles is increasingly unwilling to be associated, even indirectly, with a legal war that continues to dominate headlines and reopen old wounds. Silence, it seems, is no longer enough. If you value clear, no-spin royal analysis, subscribe now and stay with us as we go deeper.
Dan, I have to tell you, I get where both you and Tom Sykes are coming from with this, but I take a slightly more muted view of the whole thing, because I fully understand why any father would want to leave the door open for his very troubled son. And I do not also think, in fairness to Charles, that he has been weak or pathetic about any of this. I also do not agree with anybody, including the palace, that says that the king has handled the Prince Andrew business properly. I think it has been mismanaged from when the Queen was alive. I think that and one of my great friends, who I think you might have met, is a former private secretary.
Yes.
And he's always taken the view that in fact the palace has handled the whole Prince Andrew thing shockingly from the word go, because Prince Andrew has never committed any crime that he has been charged with or convicted of, and that they should have come out very firmly from the very outset and said, well, what's the big deal? The man availed himself of the services of a 17-year-old prostitute who, by her own account, was paid $15,000 for giving him pleasure, according to her account. No crime was committed. It may have been distasteful, but it's no big deal. Let's move on. That is the message that the palace should, and I agree with my private secretary friend, that they have been very mealy-mouthed, and they have tried to suck up to critics and there are times when you suck up to critics and it's the worst possible thing you can do, because you give your enemy or your adversary another dagger with which to stab you. So where the Prince Andrew thing is concerned, I'm sorry, I believe that it has been mismanaged. And I am in favor of William's toughness in where certain things are concerned. But let's remember, Prince William was very precipitate, maybe possibly for good reason, to save the earthshot price, where Lady Susan Hussey was concerned. But he didn't have to come out and be quite so brutal with what he said. He could have easily said, my understanding is that she is definitely not a racist. We will be looking into it. We do not tolerate racism. He didn't. He actually knew that he could throw her to the wolves, and did so. And so let's be clear about the fact that Prince William, he can be very precipitate as well. And where Harry is concerned, I totally agree with William. Harry is way beyond the pale. They need to be absolutely brutal where Harry's concerned. And the king's lot have not been as brutal as they should have been. Part of the matter is that Charles is not the over that people or giving or accusing him of being. He has been pretty tough with Harry from the word go. There's nothing new that he's refusing to take Harry's calls. He hasn't been taking Harry's calls or responding to Harry for some considerable length of time. So, I mean, that's my take on it. I agree with what you and Tom are about up to a point, but I also think that you're not giving as much credit to Charles as you could. And sometimes you're giving a little bit more credit to William than he deserves. That's my take on it. Sorry.
Interesting. No, I want to have a look, by the way, because William and Catherine, Lady C, have been making their first public appearance of the year over the past few hours, visiting Charing Cross Hospital in London to acknowledge the incredible work of NHS staff over what has been a difficult winter period. The couple are, of course, joint patrons of NHS charities together. I mean, I guess naturally, Lady C, I do have huge sympathy for William and Catherine because I feel at the moment, in a lot of ways, they are holding this institution together. And there's pushback coming at them from all angles, Lady C. Much of it very unfair, and some of it, and I'm going to be very honest about this, and you know Tobin Andre, who is the main courtier for King Charles, Director of Communications now at Buckingham Palace, my former boss, actually, at the Daily Mail, so I know what's going on here. And much of this criticism of William and Catherine, I mean, how can you fault these two at the moment, is coming from Buckingham Palace. And a lot of this criticism, Lady C, was over this Times magazine cover over the weekend, which had the big headline emblazoned on the cover, Queen Kate. But you know as well as I do, Lady C, that she would have had no idea that this was going to be the headline that the Times magazine used. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think this criticism coming from Buckingham Palace, and I know it's coming from Buckingham Palace, directly to the Daily Mail, Tobin Andre's former employer, is completely out of line. Now, I guess you can say to me, well, Charles might not know that his courtier is responsible for this, but I find that hard to believe, Lady C.
Well, I don't. I find it very easy to believe that Tobin Andre has decided he's going to big up himself and he's going to play ball with his former fiefdom. I find it very easy to believe. And I mean, why? Come on, Dan. You know this world as well as I do. And you know that, many of the courtiers and many of the employees at the palace who aren't even courtiers have red carpet fever, and that they all of a sudden get ideas above their station and they come out with things. I mean, Tobin Andre knows as well as you and I do that sub-editors are the ones who do headlines. They're not done by the journalists who write the articles. And also, you and I both know that as Tobin Andre ought to, and if he doesn't, he damn well should, that there is always a degree of tension between the monarch in waiting and the monarch in situ.
Absolutely.
And that it behooves the monarchy and behooves everybody concerned with the monarchy to play down the tensions, not play them up. But it seems to me as if Tobin Andre is being a typical journalist and cannot resist being a drama queen and cannot resist bigging up things that he should be playing down. That's my take on it. I don't think Charles is behind doing any of this. I'm sorry. I've had too much experience with the palace personally in terms of my writing and my books, etc. And I've had to tear strips off Jeff Crawford, what's the name of that other ridiculous one? Oh, God.
Oh, Donald McCabe.
Oh, Dickie Arbiter.
Dickie Arbiter, yes.
Dickie Arbiter. Yeah, and I've had to tear strips off Donald McCabe as well.
And these were
So,
these were formerly courtiers who worked for Queen Elizabeth
no,
II.
no.
But okay. Well, look, let's just take it as read then that what you're saying is correct and that Charles doesn't know. I still want you to just comment on this criticism of Catherine. I mean, this is how Amanda Platel in the Daily Mail tried to frame the situation. Be careful, Kate. You don't realize it, but your inner circle may have inadvertently stabbed you in the back. And this is simply because a couple of people who she had worked with decided to speak in, I would argue, very anodyne ways to Kate Mansi for that cover feature in the Times magazine.
To understand the true implications of this moment, we're joined by one of the most respected voices in royal commentary, Lady Colin Campbell. According to Lady C, this isn't about punishment or rejection, it's about institutional survival. When a senior royal repeatedly challenges the media through the courts, the Crown risks being seen as partisan, something the monarchy cannot afford. If King Charles is indeed drawing a firmer line, it may mark a permanent shift in how Prince Harry is treated by the institution. Fewer protections, less tolerance, and a clearer separation between personal grievances and royal responsibility. The question now is stark and unavoidable. Has this legal battle cost Harry his last remaining support inside the palace? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you appreciate balanced royal reporting. Subscribe for daily royal news, expert insight, and informed debate.
She would be accused of chasing. But I do think that we need to remember that journalists are in the business of creating controversy and sensationalism to fill their requirements for content. And they are going to create dramas where none necessarily exist. And I think that's the situation. I do not think that Catherine has colluded with trying to steal attention from Charles or Camilla. And I do not actually think that Charles would be actually particularly blaming Catherine. I think he'd be pretty much more blaming the press, and he'd be absolutely right to blame the press. I mean, the press is not always the friend of the people it writes about.
No way.
And even when it's writing about them positively, it can be doing negative and destructive things at the same time, which is what's happening. Because don't tell me that all of these journalists do not understand that in a monarchy, it's a hierarchy, and that number one comes first, and that you do not pitch number two against number one and create problems where neither number one nor number two is pitching against each other. And I think that's what's happening here. I don't think it's the palace in terms of. I don't think it's the palace in terms of the principals, meaning the king and the queen and William and Catherine. I think it's the journalists taking full advantage. And let's also remember that Tobin Andre is a journalist.
Exactly, Lady. On the actual matter at hand, though, Charles is right not to see Harry when he's in London for this court case against the Daily Mail, isn't he? That is the right decision from the king.
Oh, but there was never any question of him seeing Harry. I mean, my understanding is that he has been resolute in having absolutely nothing to do with Harry for some considerable length of time. You know, again, it becomes a press thing. Oh, today they're going to be making up. Tomorrow they're not going to be making up. My understanding is that the king has been absolutely resolute, has the Queen and William and Catherine in keeping to the line that has been drawn, which Harry is to be starved of all attention. Harry is not to be communicated with. They have no interaction with Harry of any consequence. None. And let's remember that the whole business with Meredith Maines coming over with Tobin Andre was an approach by Harry's side.
Yeah. And she's now gone. Lady C, as
Absolutely.
part of the implosion of Archewell, she's out. So, I mean, fat lot of good that did. But Lady C, what did you make of this briefing to the Mail on Sunday this week from the Sussexes that Prince Harry believes it is now nailed on that he will receive full security every time he visits the UK because of this stalker, Lady C, this stalker, you know, who's basically an African fan of Prince Harry, who, as far as I'm aware, was not armed, posed no physical threat. This is going to be a terrible decision, isn't it?
And has been photographed with him and Meghan repeatedly all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, somebody who is a faithful follower of theirs is being presented as a stalker. So, I mean, that shows to what extent Meghan and Harry are unappreciative and treacherous, because, I mean, they have been perfectly happy to be photographed with this woman elsewhere, and she follows them all over the world. And this cannot have been a matter of discomfort to them. And had it been a matter of discomfort to them, since they know who she is, their security would have moved her on. So the fact that their security didn't move her on for the encounter that they are now trying to use means that either they have deliberately set her up, or that they are just unconscionably taking advantage of somebody who is a supporter to try to present themselves as if that this woman is a threat. Well, I mean, she can't be a threat. So
100%.
The whole thing is a cynical exercise in manipulation, and which Harry and Meghan are both very adept at. And my understanding is that since there has not been a meeting of Rabeck yet, I don't know what Harry is deciding that the basis upon which. But I will tell you something. If there is a review and if everything is unpicked, it is going to be because if you remember who constitutes Rabeck, it's the Home Office, it's the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. So it's basically people who are governmental figures. Most of them are governmental figures. What Harry has done is he has used the courts to try to overturn a decision that was made on an executive level. He has failed to do so. So he has now gone back to the government to try to get the government to unpick it. Now, let's remember, this government is not a pro-monarchist government. And this government knows only too well that if it restores Harry's security, it is going to be deeply unpopular. But the government isn't going to be blamed because people aren't going to realize it's the government that's responsible. They're going to be blaming the royal family. So this is yet Harry and misusing his position to join forces with enemies of the monarchy so that the monarchy can ultimately be undermined while he gets what he wants. And I have to tell you, I think that if there is a reversal, it will show to what extent this government is craven and this government is anti the monarchy. And this will be a big wake-up call to people once they realize it. But will they realize it? Because, you know, an awful lot that goes on in this country is not reported upon properly by the mainstream media.
It's often not. You're totally right. Lady C, do you believe that there is a concern, though, if Harry does have his security reinstated? And I completely hear what you're saying, these leaks coming from the Sussexes are highly inappropriate. I mean, you could even argue, Lady C, they're illegal, but of course, Harry doesn't give a damn about this because what his team are attempting to do is jump the British government into making this decision. But let's just look ahead and assume that he does get what he wants from Ravik. His security is reinstated. He does potentially, Lady C, even get his personal protection status internationally given back to him, which would mean that we as British taxpayers would be having to pay for him to receive armed security on these ludicrous quasi-royal tours to genuinely dangerous countries like Colombia. If that happens, do you understand why William and Kensington Palace are furious about it? Because it allows Prince Harry the opportunity to set up some type of rival court to him in the United Kingdom. And by the way, allows Harry to spend far more time away from his miserable home setup in Montecito.
Oh, yes, I see all of that very clearly. I mean, it's obvious. But the fact of the matter is, just because Harry's status is going to be reviewed, and there is no basis actually for Ravik to actually reverse the decisions of the past 6 years. Because, I mean, are they reversing the decisions in terms of Princess Anne and Prince Edward? No. So, and they don't receive security unless they're doing official duties. So let's remember that. And they are also children of a monarch, and they're actually working royals. And there's another issue as well, which is that Ravik is supposed to look at the security for royals who are working and living in the United Kingdom. Harry's not living in the United Kingdom.
Exactly.
Nor is he working. So they're right there. There is an anomaly, to be polite about it all. But I see that if it is reversed, it does not inevitably lead to Harry getting back his IPP status. And even if he did, that would cause huge problems in the United States of America, because Trump has made it absolutely clear that there is no way he will be agreeing for the American taxpayer to be paying for Harry's security. And they would be obliged to pay for a lot of it. So there's all of that to consider. Of course, this government, the Starmer government, is basically anti the Trump government. So it might well do all it can to create problems for the Trump government by creating issues and making decisions that will cause problems for the American government. I mean, let's remember we're dealing with politicians, and politicians are unlike royal courts. They are constantly scheming and plotting and planning against each other, and in a way that the royal courts do not actually do, to the extent that some of the press would like to believe that they do. But politicians certainly do. And there's all of that to consider as well.
Lady C, this week, Meghan's whole career has imploded. And by the way, she sent me a wickless candle. Can you believe this? So we're going to get into it all. We're going to get into everything that has imploded over the past 2 weeks in our Royal Uncancelled After Show.